My son certainly found himself an exotic pet.
Are those real pearls? My new mother-in-law hissed, loud enough for the entire head table to hear. I suppose it's the best she could do, coming from, well, you know. Her husband, the billionaire patriarch of the family, chuckled and tapped his champagne glass for his toast. He smirked at me. "I'd like to welcome Imani to the family," he announced to his 500 wealthy guests. "She's exotic, a little unrefined. But as I told my son, if you're going to get a pet, you might as well get one that's grateful." The entire ballroom, full of billionaires, erupted in laughter. My new husband, the man who said he loved me, just smiled, raised his glass, and looked away. They all laughed, but they didn't see me check the diamond watch hidden in my bouquet. 3:30 p.m. They thought I was a pet. They didn't know I was a hunter. They didn't know that for the past 3 years, I hadn't been a girlfriend. I had been a deep-cover investigator for the Department of Justice. And in exactly 30 minutes, an anonymous data packet, which I had just uploaded from the bridal suite, was scheduled to hit the desk of the Attorney General. A packet containing all the evidence of his insider trading, the real source of his billionaire empire. They thought they were just mocking a poor black girl. They had no idea they were toasting the one woman who was about to have their entire family arrested and their entire empire seized.
Welcome back to Black Lives Story, where we tell the stories that must be told. If you believe this woman deserves justice, hit that like button and subscribe to join our community. Now let's see what happens next.
The year was 2010. The air in federal courtroom 3B was thick with the smell of old floor wax, cheap coffee, and the electric copper taste of a life about to end. In the front row, a 15-year-old girl sat on the hard, polished bench. Her name was Imani Jones. She was small for her age, her legs too short to touch the floor, her feet dangling, clad in scuffed school shoes. She was clutching a small, worn-out teddy bear, a childhood relic she had grabbed for comfort, and she was drowning. She was watching her entire world die. At the defendant's table sat her father, Marcus Jones. He wasn't just a father, he was a pillar. He was the man who coached her little league team. The man who taught her how to play chess. A brilliant, self-made software engineer who had, for 20 years, been the quiet, ethical, genius-level partner in a burgeoning financial tech firm. Now he was just the defendant. He was hollowed out. His eyes, once bright and full of laughter, were now a dull, bruised, and hopeless gray. On the charge of conspiracy to commit securities fraud, the judge intoned, his voice a bored, monotone drone. How does the jury find? A man stood. Guilty. The word hit Imani like a physical blow. A high-pitched, keening sound escaped her throat. On the charge of wire fraud, how does the jury find? Guilty. On the charge of securities fraud, how does the jury find? Guilty. 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 The word was a hammer, and it was shattering her life. Her father slumped, his broad shoulders caving in, as if the very air had been sucked from his lungs. The sound of his attorney, a tired, overworked public defender, was a distant buzz. Your Honor, my client maintains his innocence. It didn't matter. It was over. 2 U.S. Marshals moved in. They pulled her father's arms behind his back. The click of the handcuffs was the loudest sound Imani had ever heard. It was the sound of a door locking forever. Dad! She screamed, finally breaking, jumping from the bench. Daddy! Imani! Marcus roared, his voice cracking with a pain that was more than any sentence. He turned, his eyes now wild, finding hers. The marshals were pulling him away. Imani, baby, listen to me. She ran to the barrier. He pulled against the guards, a desperate, final act of a father. I didn't do it, he cried, his voice raw. I didn't do it, baby. It was him. He framed me. Covington. Mr. Jones, you need to? The marshal tried. He framed me, Imani. Marcus screamed as they dragged him toward the door. He took it all. Arthur Covington. Covington. He framed me. I love you. I love. The heavy oak doors swung shut, cutting him off. And he was gone. Imani collapsed against the barrier, her small body racked with sobs. She was alone. Her mother had died years ago. Her father, her hero, had just been stolen from her. And in the back of the courtroom, in the very last row, a man stood up. He was 50 years old. He was dressed in an impeccable, expensive suit. He adjusted his silk tie. He looked for one long, cold second at the crying 15-year-old orphan girl. He did not look sad. He did not look ashamed. He smirked. It was the cold, satisfied, reptilian smile of a man who had just watched his only problem get locked in a cage. He was, of course, Arthur Covington, Marcus Jones's partner, the man who had that morning been the prosecution's star witness. Imani, her eyes blurred with tears, saw him. She saw that smirk, and in that moment, the 15-year-old girl died. And something else, something cold and hard and patient, was born. She didn't just cry. She watched him. She memorized his face, his suit, his smile. He had just taught her a lesson. The law was not about justice. It was about power. Her father, Marcus Jones, died 5 years later, in a federal prison in Terre Haute. He died of a heart attack that was, in reality, a broken heart. He was 52 years old. Imani did not break. She did not fall into despair. His death was not an end. It was a purpose. That cold, hard, patient thing that was born in the courtroom, it grew. It fed on her grief. It fed on her rage. It fed on the smirk of Arthur Covington. The anger didn't just consume her. It forged her. She went to college. She didn't just go, she conquered. 4.0 GPA. She went to law school. Yale. She didn't just attend, she dominated. Law review. Moot court champion. She didn't get a job at a white shoe corporate firm. She went to the one place that held the keys to the kingdom, the Department of Justice. She didn't just become a lawyer. She became a weapon. She joined the Financial Crimes Division. She wasn't the loudest. She wasn't the flashiest. She was the scariest. She was the ghost. The 30-year-old investigator they gave the impossible cases to. The untouchable ones. The billionaires. The senators. The pillars of the community. She was the one who could find the digital breadcrumb, the hidden offshore account, the one tiny lie that could unravel a multi-billion-dollar empire. She was cold. She was calculating. She had a wall of ice around her. And she was by a mile the most brilliant and feared investigator on the 9th floor. The year is now, 15 years to the day, since her father was found guilty. Imani is standing in her glass-walled office, looking down at the Capitol. Her boss, a tough, by-the-book director named Harris, walks in. He doesn't knock. "Jones," he says, his voice a low growl. "I've got a new one. It's a monster." He throws a thick, blue file on her desk. The name on the tab is written in a single, bold black marker. Covington Arthur. Covington Capital. Imani's back is to him. She doesn't turn. But her hands, resting on the windowsill, clench. Just once. "Arthur Covington," she says, her voice a perfectly controlled, level monotone. "He's not a monster, sir. He's a pillar. A philanthropist. He's on the board of the Kennedy Center. He owns 3 senators. He's untouchable." "He was untouchable," Harris growled. "But he's getting sloppy. We've got a whisper. A strong whisper. That his entire $10 billion empire is a pattern or practice of insider trading, money laundering, and, get this, the original 2010 financial tech scandal. The one that built his company." Imani's blood turned to ice. Her father's case. "The problem is," Harris continued, "he's impenetrable. He's a ghost. No one can get near him. His inner circle is a fortress. We've tried for 5 years. We can't get inside. This is a deep cover assignment, Imani. Or it's nothing. I need a ghost to catch a ghost. Are you in? Imani is silent. Her mind is on fire. The 15-year-old girl is screaming inside her. She turns slowly. Her face is a mask of cold, professional calm. The wall of ice is perfect. He's not entirely impenetrable, sir, she says. Harris raises an eyebrow. What do you mean? Imani walks to her desk. She taps her keyboard. A file comes up on her screen. It's not a DOJ file. It's her own file. The one she's been building for 15 years. He has a son, she says. Liam Covington, the golden boy. 32 years old. Entitled. Weak. And he has a type. He likes projects. Women he thinks he can save. Women from unrefined backgrounds. Harris is confused. What? What does his son have to do with? I've been tracking him for 2 years, sir, Imani says. I know where he has lunch. I know the art galleries he visits. I know that he's going to be at the St. Regis fundraiser on Friday. Harris's eyes go wide. He finally understands. Imani, no. You can't mean you're not. That's the plan? You're going to date him. Imani looks at her boss. The 15-year-old girl is gone. The ice is back. She is the weapon. She is the ghost. Sir, she says, her voice as cold and final as a gavel strike. You said you needed to get inside. Arthur Covington framed my father. He let him die in a cage. And he's been laughing about it for 15 years. She picks up the file. You're not sending an investigator, director. You're sending a nightmare. You're sending the one woman on earth who is willing to do anything, to burn his entire empire to the ground. Imani Jones, the ghost investigator, was gone. In her place, a new woman was born. A legend, in intel terms. A fake identity, built from the ground up, designed not just to be a disguise, but to be the perfect, irresistible bait. Her name was Imani. Just Imani. She was not a Yale-educated lawyer. She was a struggling but brilliant art curator from a poor background. She had a mostly fictional art degree from a state school. She had a very real, tiny one-bedroom apartment in the artsy, i.e. poor, warehouse district. And she had a very real, part-time job as a barista at a high-end coffee shop where the wealthy and powerful liked to get their $12 lattes. She was smart, but not threateningly smart. She was beautiful, but in an exotic, unrefined way that old money found interesting. She was, in short, the perfect project. Imani had done her research. 15 years of it. She knew Arthur Covington, the man who had murdered her father, was a fortress. There was no way in. But his son, Liam, he was a wide-open 32-year-old golden boy gate. Liam Covington fancied himself a rebel. His father, Arthur, was a man of cold, hard financial numbers. So Liam, in his one pathetic act of defiance, had decided to be a patron of the arts. He loved the idea of struggling artists. He loved the idea of the ghetto. He loved to be the richest, most powerful man in a room full of bohemian creatives. He loved rescuing pretty women he saw as projects, women who would be grateful to him. Imani just had to be the most rescuable woman he had ever met. The chance meeting took 6 months to orchestrate. Imani, using her struggling curator persona, had managed to get a small pop-up gallery show in the warehouse district. She was showcasing a new, challenging artist. She knew, from tracking his credit card statements, a perk of a DOJ investigation, that Liam visited this district every third Thursday. He came in on a rainy November night. He didn't see her at first. He just saw the art. He moved through the small, crowded gallery, his $5,000 suit looking ridiculous in the gritty, industrial space. He was the king, surveying his projects. Then he saw her. She was on a rickety 10-foot ladder, in paint-stained overalls, a wrench in her hand, trying to fix a broken track light. She was Imani, the struggling curator. She was the definition of his type. He was instantly, hopelessly smitten. "Need a hand?" he asked, his voice the easy, practiced charm of a man who had never been told no. Imani startled, looking down. "Oh, I'm fine. This light is just stubborn." So am I, he smiled. Liam Covington. He extended his hand. Imani wiped the paint from her hand onto her overalls. She took his. Imani, she said. Just Imani. He was hooked. He asked her to dinner. She said no. She said she had to work. He asked her again. She said no again. She had to close the gallery. He offered to buy a painting and then take her to dinner. She finally, reluctantly, agreed. He thought he had conquered her. He had no idea. He had just willingly walked into the trap. And so the long con began. For 2 years, Imani Jones played the part of the grateful, poor black girlfriend. 2 years of smiling when she wanted to scream. 2 years of swallowing her rage, her grief, her hatred. 2 years of enduring. The first time he took her to the Covington estate, the 40-acre, old money fortress that her father's stolen genius had paid for. She had to lock herself in the bathroom, her hands shaking so hard she couldn't breathe. She was in the lion's den. She was in the house of the man who had murdered her father. She looked at her own reflection in the gold-plated mirror, and the 15-year-old girl, the one who had cried in the courtroom, looked back. Not yet, Imani whispered to her. Not yet. She mastered the part. She was the perfect, grateful Trojan horse. But all the while, as she was playing the victim, she was working. On the outside, she was enduring the slow, crushing, racist, and classist humiliation of the Covington family. At a Christmas party, the mother, Eleanor, hands Imani her gift. It's a small, tasteful envelope. Inside is a gift certificate to a community college. For an etiquette class, dear, Eleanor smiles, her eyes as cold as a serpent's. Just to help you fit in. And Liam, her boyfriend, just laughs. Oh, Mom, you're so bad. That same night, while Eleanor is downstairs, bragging about her charity work, Imani is upstairs. She is in Arthur Covington's grand, mahogany study, the one room her father had told her about. Her heart is a cold, hammering drum. She is not admiring the art. She is in her purse, and she pulls out a tiny, government-issued audio recorder, no bigger than a cufflink, and she plants it deep under the lip of his 19th-century desk. At a Hamptons fundraiser, Arthur Covington, drunk on champagne, pats Imani on the head in front of his friends. Isn't she just precious? He slurs. Liam just loves his little projects. It's good to help the less fortunate, isn't it? She's so grateful. That same night, while the grateful Imani is being paraded around like a prize, she accidentally spills wine on Liam's laptop. As he runs to get a napkin, she inserts a USB key, a DOJ-issued ghost drive. In the 30 seconds he is gone, she copies his entire hard drive. His private family server passwords. His father's private calendars. For 2 years, this was her life. A living hell of 1,000 tiny cuts. They mocked her unruly natural hair, so she smiled, as she planted a keylogger on the family's main computer. They called her unrefined, so she looked down shyly as she photographed the hidden ledger in Arthur's home safe, the safe he used for personal papers. She was building the case. Bit by bit, the offshore accounts, the hidden transfers, the proof, the real proof of the 15-year-old insider trading scheme that had built his empire and destroyed her father. Liam, weak, complicit, and blinded by his own hero complex, saw nothing. He saw her as a pet. He saw her as exotic. He saw her as grateful. He had no idea she was a weapon. She was a hunter. She was a nightmare. And after 2 years, she had it. She had all of it. The case was built. The warrants were drafted, sitting on her boss's desk, just waiting for her signal. All she needed was the perfect stage. A public, untouchable moment where all of them, Arthur, Eleanor, and the complicit Liam, were in the same room. And then, Liam, in a final act of rebellion, proposed. He had no idea he wasn't just proposing marriage. He was proposing the date of his family's execution. 2 years. 730 days. That is how long Imani Jones played the part of Imani, the grateful, unrefined pet. For 2 years, she smiled when she wanted to scream. She lowered her eyes in shame when she was burning with a cold, righteous fury. She was the Trojan horse, a living, breathing weapon of vengeance, welcomed with condescending, racist arms right into the heart of the enemy's fortress. The Covington estate, the house built on her father's stolen genius, the house that rightfully should have been hers, became her new hunting ground. The humiliation was a constant, low-grade fever. A slow burn of 1,000 tiny, racist, and classist cuts, designed to remind her, at every moment, that she was less. The first major test came at a Sunday dinner. Arthur Covington sat at the head of the 30-foot table, a king on his throne. His wife, Eleanor, sat opposite, her eyes the cold, reptilian eyes of an old-money socialite, fixed on Imani. "Imani, dear," Eleanor said, her voice a sickly sweet poison. "Now that you and Liam are serious, we must discuss the wedding." Liam, her fiancé, beamed. "Mom, I haven't even—" "Oh, hush, Liam." Eleanor cut him off, not even looking at him. Her eyes were locked on Imani. "This opportunity is a significant step up for you, dear. You must be overwhelmed. And so grateful." "Grateful," Imani repeated, her voice a perfect, soft, humble whisper. "I am, Mrs. Covington. Very grateful," Imani thought, her heart a cold, hard stone in her chest. "I'm grateful that you are so blinded by your own arrogance. You haven't noticed my art curator job gives me access to every auction house and every illegal art purchase you've made to launder your husband's money. I'm grateful that you're a fool. It's just," Eleanor continued, dabbing her lips with a napkin, "the guest list. We simply cannot have your lineage mixing with our real guests. It's just not done." She was talking about Imani's family. Her aunts, her cousins, the people who had raised her after her father was stolen. We'll put them at a separate table," Eleanor smiled, as if this were a kindness. "Near the kitchens, for everyone's comfort." Liam, her weak, complicit fiancé, just laughed. "Oh, Mom, that's just how you are. So old-fashioned." He squeezed Imani's hand under the table, as if to say, "See? She's harmless." Imani just smiled. A small, tight, grateful smile. We see Imani at the Covington's exclusive country club. Eleanor's friends, a coven of silver-haired socialites, are circling her. "My goodness," one of them says, her eyes fixed on Imani's natural, beautiful, unruly hair. "It's so big. Are you sure you want that for the wedding photos, dear? It's just not very refined." Eleanor nods. "We simply must find you a stylist, Imani. Someone who can tame that. Smooth it out. Make it more appropriate." Imani just touches her hair, her eyes downcast. "Oh," she whispers. I'll think about it." We flash to last night. The family was at the opera, an event they had deemed Imani too unrefined for. "You wouldn't enjoy it, dear," Eleanor had said. "No, you're right," Imani had replied. I'm just going to stay in and read." The second their car left the driveway, Imani was moving. We see her in Arthur Covington's grand mahogany study. She is not reading. She is working. She uses a small, DOJ-issued device to disable the silent alarm on the 19th century bookshelf. She pulls a specific book, The Art of War. It's a cliché. It's also the trigger. A hidden panel hisses open, revealing a top-of-the-line biometric hidden safe. She pulls out a thin, clear, silicone film. It's the fingerprint she lifted from Liam's Scotch glass an hour ago. She places it over the scanner. A click. The safe opens. Her heart is a cold, hammering drum. And there it is. The real source of the empire. The hidden ledgers. The offshore account numbers. The bank in the Cayman Islands. And one more thing. A thin, faded 15-year-old file. She opens it. It's the original partnership agreement between Arthur Covington and her father, Marcus Jones. The real one. The one Arthur had lost. The one that proved her father owned 50% of the original, stolen algorithm. The smoking gun. She doesn't steal it. That's clumsy. She just photographs it. Page by page. Her phone's camera, silent, precise, capturing every word, every number. She photographs the ledgers. The account numbers. The wire transfers to the man who had been paid to testify against her father. She puts everything back. Closes the safe. Fixes the book. Rearms the alarm. By the time the Covingtons return, giddy from the opera, she is on the sofa, asleep, a book of appropriate poetry on her lap. She has the entire case. The 15-year-old girl in the courtroom is finally ready. The next day, Liam, her fiancé, finds her on the veranda. He's trying to be the hero. "Hey," he says, sitting next to her, wrapping his arm around her. Don't listen to my mother about your hair, okay? I like that it's, unruly. He's trying to be rebellious. Imani leans her head on his shoulder, playing the part of the grateful, comforted woman. Thank you, Liam, she whispers. She says such mean things sometimes. Oh, babe, don't be so sensitive, he laughs, his response the casual, dismissive reply of a man who has never faced a single consequence in his life. That's just how they are. She's old-fashioned. She doesn't mean it like that. He allows it. He excuses it. He is complicit. Imani just smiles. You're right. I'm just being silly. No, you're not, she thinks, as she secretly presses send on her phone, uploading the final, encrypted 50-gigabyte data packet. The photos, the audio from the study, the offshore accounts, directly to her boss's secure DOJ server. You're not silly. You're a weak, pathetic, spoiled accomplice. And you're going to burn with the rest of them. The case was built. The evidence was filed. The 15-year-old girl in the courtroom had just handed her boss the weapon. All she needed now was a stage, a grand, public, untouchable stage, to finally pull the trigger. And then the embossed, cream-colored $500 a-piece wedding invitation arrived in the mail. It was perfect. The wedding was not a marriage. It was a press conference. It was the execution. And the entire Covington family had just paid for the tickets. The Covington Grand Ballroom was a $10 million cathedral of power. It was not a room. It was a statement. The ceiling, 60 feet high, was a masterpiece of restored 19th century frescoes. The walls were draped in silks of ivory and gold. 10,000 white orchids imported from Thailand hung in cascades from crystal chandeliers. This was not a wedding reception. It was the coronation of a king, Arthur Covington, who had just successfully merged his old money dynasty with the new money of his son's rebellious choice. 500 of the world's most powerful people were here. The billionaire class. Senators, oil tycoons, tech billionaires, and old money European aristocrats. They were all here to drink $1,000 champagne and witness the Covingtons' latest and strangest acquisition. And at the head table, on a raised dais, sat Imani Jones. She was a vision. She was in a stunning, custom-made white gown. But to her, it was not a wedding dress. It was a costume. It was the final layer of her legend, the disguise of the Trojan horse. She was not a bride. She was a hunter, in the heart of the enemy's fortress, and her hunt was almost over. Beside her sat her new husband, Liam Covington, the golden boy. He was drunk on champagne, on his own perceived rebellion, and on the beauty of his new exotic wife. He leaned in, his breath hot and sweet. "See, baby," he whispered, squeezing her hand. "I told you they'd love you. They all love you." Imani just smiled. A calm, perfect bridal smile. She didn't look at him. Her eyes were on him. Arthur Covington. He was at the center of the table, holding court, his face flushed with champagne and sociopathic glee. He was victorious. He had successfully bought this poor, grateful black girl for his son, a final, perfect ornament for his empire. Imani felt a small vibration in her lap, hidden by the silk of her dress. Her private, encrypted DOJ phone. A single text from her boss, Harris. "All teams are in position. Warrants are live. Are you 100% sure, Imani? This is the point of no return. We go now, we get them all. But this is your call. You just need to give the signal." Imani's heart was a cold, hard stone of purpose. 15 years. 15 years of her father's face, dying in a prison cell. 15 years of that smirk in the courtroom. She looked at Liam, her husband, who was now laughing obnoxiously with his groomsmen. She looked at Eleanor Covington, the mother-in-law, who was watching her with that same reptilian smile, as if she were a piece of art that might, at any moment, be revealed as a fake. And she looked at Arthur Covington, the man who had murdered her father. She typed a single reply, her thumb steady. "Not yet. Wait for the toast. I want the world to see why." Arthur Covington was on his feet. He was holding a microphone in one hand and a champagne flute in the other. He was drunk. He was powerful. And he was, in this final moment, untouchable. "Friends," he boomed, his voice echoing through the grand ballroom. "Family. Colleagues. Thank you. Thank you for celebrating this merger, with me tonight." A wave of polite, wealthy laughter rippled through the 500 guests. They all knew what this was. A transaction. "My son, Liam," Arthur continued, gesturing to his son, who beamed, "has always been a collector. He has a taste for rare things." Imani felt her entire body go cold. She knew what was coming. Arthur now turned, his smile full of teeth, and gestured with his entire arm, not at his son, but at her. And this is his most interesting acquisition to date. The crowd roared. The cruelty was palpable. They were all in on the joke. I'd like to welcome, he paused as if he'd forgotten her name, Imani, to the Covington family. He walked over to her. He stood behind her chair, his hand possessively on her shoulder, as if he were presenting a prize racehorse. Imani could smell the cognac on him. She's exotic, he announced. Isn't she? A little unrefined, a little off the market, if you will. The laughter was louder now, crueler. The cameras flashed. But, Arthur said, raising his glass, as I told my son, if you're going to get a pet, you might as well get one that's grateful. The word pet hung in the air, a final, public, and unforgivable humiliation. He had just called his new daughter-in-law, a black woman, a pet, in front of 500 of the world's most powerful people. And the 500 guests, the billionaires, the senators, the captains of industry, they laughed. They roared. They clapped. They stomped their feet. It was the funniest thing they had ever heard. Imani sat there, a statue in white. She did not look at Arthur. She looked at her husband. She looked at Liam. Liam Covington, her golden boy, the man who loved her, the man who was her partner, was smiling. He was laughing. He was raising his glass, along with his father. He looked at her, saw the look in her eyes, and he looked away. He looked away. He chose them. He chose the money. He chose the power. He chose the old world. He was weak. He was complicit. He was guilty. And that was the final piece. Imani looked down at her lap, at her hidden phone. The 15-year-old girl from the courtroom was gone. The grateful pet was gone. Only the ghost investigator remained. Her thumb, steady as a surgeon's, pressed the send button on the text message. Green light. The signal was given. The trap was sprung. Outside, a block away, in a black, unmarked van, her boss, Harris, looked at his own phone. He saw the message. He looked at the 20 FBI agents in full tactical gear, their warrants in hand. She's given the signal, he said. It's a go. Hit them. The laughter in the $10 million ballroom was a tidal wave of cruelty. 500 of the world's most powerful people, laughing at the pet, laughing at the grateful, unrefined black girl. Arthur Covington was beaming, his face flushed with champagne and victory. His son, Liam, her husband, was smiling, wiping a tear of laughter from his eye, looking away from his new wife. He had made his choice. And in that moment, as the laughter reached its peak, Imani Jones, the bride, stood up. She didn't just stand. She rose. She rose from her chair at the head table, a silent, graceful column of white silk. The laughter, seeing her move, began to falter. The smiles wavered. The room, which had been a cacophony of cruelty, began to fall silent, one table at a time, until a heavy, confused, anxious hush fell over the 500 guests. They were expecting tears. They were expecting her to run from the room, humiliated. She did not run. She smiled. It was not the grateful, humble, pet smile she had worn for 2 years. It was a new smile. A smile that was cold, sharp, and as brilliant as a surgeon's scalpel. It was the smile of the ghost investigator. It was the smile of a predator that was finally done playing with its food. She walked with a slow, deliberate, and terrifyingly calm grace to her new father-in-law. Arthur Covington, still holding the microphone, looked at her, his smile faltering, confused. What is it, dear? Did you want to say something? Imani's smile widened. Yes, Arthur, she said, her voice no longer the soft, shy whisper he was used to. It was a new voice. A voice that was crisp, clear, and full of a cold, joyful, final authority. I would love to say a few words. She didn't ask for the microphone. She took it. She took it from his hand, her fingers brushing his, and he actually flinched, a small, instinctive recoil, as if he'd just been touched by a block of ice. She turned to face the 500 guests. She was a vision in white on a stage, bathed in a spotlight. It was, as she had planned, the perfect stage. Thank you, Arthur, she began, her voice echoing through the silent ballroom. Thank you for that toast. She looked at her new, now very confused husband, Liam. And thank you, Liam. She turned back to Arthur. It's true, she said, her voice resonating with a strange new power. I am so grateful. Arthur's smile began to return. He thought she was thanking him. I'm grateful, Imani continued, her voice like silk-wrapped steel, for the access you've given me for the past 2 years. Incredible access, really. Access to your life, your home. She paused, locking eyes with him. Your study. Access to your safe, Imani continued, her voice growing stronger. Access to your hidden ledgers. Your real offshore account numbers. The bank in the Caymans. The whole beautiful criminal thing. A wave of gasps rippled through the ballroom. Liam, his face pale, half stood. Imani? What? What are you talking about? I'm talking about this, Liam, she said, turning to him, her smile gone, replaced by a look of pure, cold pity. You see, you thought I was a pet. You thought I was unrefined. You thought I was a struggling curator from the ghetto. She turned back to the 500 guests, who were now all leaning forward, their phones all recording. What you didn't know, she announced, her voice ringing with the force of a judge's gavel, is that I am a deep-cover federal investigator for the United States Department of Justice. The room exploded. Not in applause. In chaos. People were on their feet, shouting. Eleanor, the mother-in-law, let out a high-pitched, horrified shriek. She's lying. Arthur, she's lying. Am I Arthur? Imani said, her voice cutting through the noise. Am I lying? Or am I just grateful? She pulled her hidden, DOJ-issued phone from a secret pocket in her wedding dress. She held it up. My wedding gift to you, Arthur, she said, is a 50-gigabyte encrypted data packet. The one I just uploaded from the bridal suite 30 minutes ago, while you were all downstairs drinking champagne. It contains everything. Irrefutable, audio, and visual proof of your $500 million insider trading scheme. She looked at her watch. As of right now, that packet has hit the desk of the Attorney General, the Director of the SEC, and the IRS. Your billionaire empire, Arthur? Every account, every asset, it will all be frozen by 9 a.m. on Monday. Liam, her husband, finally understood. You played me, he whispered, his face a mask of white, sickened betrayal. You used me? Imani looked at him, her face a mask of stone. You let them call me a pet, Liam. You laughed. You were a gate. And you were, just like your father, too arrogant to ever ask what was on the other side. Arthur Covington was now clutching his chest. His face was the color of ash. You bitch, he gasped. Who are you? This was the moment. The 15-year-old girl in the courtroom stepped forward. Imani leaned into the microphone. Her voice was a low, shaking roar of 15 years of pain. I'm not just here for this crime, Arthur, she said, her eyes locked on his, a hot single tear of victory finally rolling down her cheek. I'm here for the original one. She took a deep breath. My name is Imani Jones. Arthur's knees buckled. I am the daughter of Marcus Jones. The man you framed. The man you murdered. The man you let die in a prison cell 15 years ago, so you could steal his company. A sound of pure, animal terror escaped Arthur's lips. No, he choked. No, it can't be. He framed me. Imani screamed, her voice now a perfect, echoing cry of her father's last words. He framed me. Do you remember, Arthur? Do you remember his face? Do you remember my face? I was there. I was the 15-year-old girl in the courtroom. And I saw your smirk. She pointed a single, trembling finger at him. And I have been coming for you every single day since. The room was in total pandemonium. Eleanor Covington had fainted. Liam was vomiting into a $10,000 ice sculpture. Arthur was collapsing, a broken, gasping, terrified old man. Imani, her speech done, her 15-year-old promise kept, looked to the back of the ballroom. She looked at the grand oak doors. And she nodded. The grand ballroom doors burst open. They didn't just open. They exploded inward, slamming against the walls. And 20 FBI agents in full black tactical vests, FBI in bright, screaming yellow, stormed the room. They moved with a silent, terrifying federal precision, fanning out, securing the exits, their weapons at the ready. The 500 billionaire guests screamed, cowering behind their tables. The agent's leader, Imani's boss, Harris, walked straight through the center of the chaos, his eyes locked on the head table. He didn't look at Imani. He walked straight to the collapsing Arthur Covington. Arthur Covington, Harris boomed, his voice an undeniable federal sound. You are under arrest for securities fraud, conspiracy, and the 15-year-old murder of Marcus Jones. No, Arthur shrieked as two agents hauled him to his feet, yanking his arms behind his back. "No! Get your hands off me! I own this city! I own you!" The click, click, click of the handcuffs was the final, devastating sound. The video ends on a single, breathtaking slow-motion shot. We see Arthur Covington, the untouchable king, the billionaire, being dragged away in handcuffs, his $10,000 tuxedo in disarray, his face a mask of weeping, pathetic ruin. We see his empire, the 500 guests all cowering, their phones all recording their own downfall. And in the center of it all, on the dais, standing tall, her face a mask of cold, calm, and terrible justice, is Imani Jones. A bride in white, a pet, an unrefined girl from the ghetto, the ghost who had just crushed their entire empire.